Today's guest is somebody that turned washing cars at just 13 years old into complete financial freedom by the age of 29. He didn't do it washing cars though, he turned successful trader. And when we talk about trading, there's a lot of hype in the world around get rich quick. Now, our guest today hates that mentality and has a completely different philosophy, which is the philosophy of always free. He talks today in today's episode about how most people shouldn't be a trader, and there are some very specific types of individuals that will thrive in that environment. Today, we're going to break down business. How do you get leads and clients and actually build a ramp into your business that gets you tons of clients and value, as well as trading strategies and so much more. Buckle in, because you're going to love today's episode of Business Growth Secrets. So really pleased to have you on, Jason. Welcome, mate. Great to see you.
It's always a pleasure.
It really is.
It's always good being with you, mate.
Well, I'm super excited to have a great chat today and, really bring some of your philosophies and the things that you do to what we do and to expose people to that, which I think is going to be really, really helpful. You've obviously got this, expansive background as an investor, trader, entrepreneur, 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, sought after, tons of people listening to you, millions and millions of views. But where did that all start?
Wow. When you say it like that, it feels like I've achieved a lot.
Yeah.
So I grew up on a council estate in London called Hatfield Mead. The reason I'm where I'm at is a big snowball effect of what happened on that estate. There was a summer when I was 13 and I really wanted this BMX bike, this Mongoose BMX bike. There was all walks of life on this estate. I was just a nosy kid. I used to earwig on conversations, and I just remember everyone moaning about money, basically. I didn't know why they were moaning about it, but they all had this kind of negative view on money. It was like, oh, why can't my boss give me more money, or money's horrible, money's the root of all evil, kind of thing. Those types of conversations. I don't remember them all, but I just remember thinking this is, money's a pretty bad thing. And then 7:30 at night, every Friday, this guy called Roy used to come down, take everyone's money and go and do a syndicate lottery for them. And the next 10 minutes, their faces would lit up, like how amazing their life would be if they had all this money. And I just remember thinking, this is weird. Like, what's going on? Like, they're just, money's bad, but they want it, And I was only 13, so I guess the naivety, the ignorance of that age, I couldn't put two and two together. I was just like, I saw the contrast more than anything. It was like, it's horrible, it's good. I didn't really get that they meant if they had some, it would make their life better because of what I know now. Coincidentally, that summer, leading up to my 14th birthday, is when I wanted this Mongoose BMX. I went down the video shop, printed out loads of photocopies of this bike to put around my house to give hints to my mum that I wanted this bike. One day she came down the hall and she had this kind of solemn look on her face. I knew what she was going to say. She said, I know you want this bike. It's out of our price range. But they said, however, we'll put half towards it if you can get the other half. And I just shook on it straight away. I didn't know how to make money or anything at that point. But the next day, it was the summer holidays, I went out and I was like, I'm going to wash cars. We had this green on the estate. So I went, washed this first car. It was a Volkswagen Golf for this lady called Lynn. And she gave me £7, which was £5 plus £2 tip. So I'm up in my room that night. I'm thinking, I'm going to get this bike in no time. I'm telling my mate about it. And he's like, do you want me to help? And I was like, I don't really want to pay you. I want the bike. Anyway, my stepdad came in my room and he said, I'm going to the shop. Do you want anything? Something made me give him everything I'd earned that day. So the whole £7, I was back to zero. And I said, can you get me a bucket and sponge for Gareth? The next day we washed 4 cars. And then within 4 weeks, I had 4 friends washing up to 16 cars. And I wasn't doing any washing. I was just knocking on the doors and taking the payment, selling the next car wash and all this, doing all the fun stuff. And although I was getting less money, I was still making money. So I was doing more of the things that was fun about it and still being able to get enough to do the bike. It was like I'd discovered fire. I just remember thinking, they're unhappy with money because they can't use it properly. It must be that. Because if you use it properly and you invest it, I didn't know the word invest then, but if you use money properly, it can actually give you more choice to do more of the things that you enjoy and get the things that you want in life. And that was it.
There's something about being young, isn't it? And this is the thing with people that are young, is they don't at that stage have fear and rejection as something to potentially hold them back. Where someone a little bit older, the people sitting on the steps, they might have the fear. Well, what if it doesn't work? They might have the rejection. What if I go and ask for this and people say no?
Yeah.
It's going to make me feel like this. But someone when they're fresh and they're new and it's their first time ever, they don't know any of those things. They've not experienced it, right? And actually, that first time you get the £7, it's quite a big validation. And I think business owners, when they go and start a business, they actually need that validation. I always say, go and get your first paying client as soon as you possibly can. And what I actually say is that you're pregnant with your business idea until you sold something.
Absolutely.
And you got the validation.
Absolutely.
So that happened. What happens next? How do we build from there?
So that, I always had that knowledge, and I always thought I'm going to take that into my work with me, just knowing that, and delegation. Really, that was the key. It was like, if I can delegate things that I don't want to do and still get paid, I'd rather do that than have more money, because I can still get some things that, it might take a bit longer, but I don't have to do I can have a nicer life. And that just really suited me. So I wasn't chasing like getting rich or anything, but I just knew there was a trade-off between how you make money and how much you get and all the crap you have to put up with. And that I just took that into my work life. Aside from that, I've always been driven for security, because I grew up, my dad had left me before we were born. We had bailiffs knocking on the door, electricity running out. To make ends meet, my mum's going to do like taxi rank jobs, all that, work at a supermarket. I perceived to have a big lack of security, and that's all I wanted. And obviously, as you navigate through life, you realise that money is a way to provide security. So I think I gravitated towards mastering how to use money properly, but also how to bring a balance to my life so that there was no chaos when you use the money, because I didn't want any volatility. I just wanted security. I wanted sustainability. I wanted to be able to have a future safe environment rather than a cash grab, make a few, make a load, then lose it. I didn't want all that.
We know each other really, really well, and spent a lot of time together in masterminds and things like that. And you're a calm guy, right? And your typical entrepreneur is
frantic.
Maybe a bit more frantic, a bit more dynamic, and you are nice. You're quite very logical in your approach, aren't you? In the way that you do things. So it's really interesting to hear about that, and it's good for people that are that way to see actually, it can be done, right?
I mean, I've had some great mentors over my life, but just, when I went into investing and higher speculative stuff like swing trading and just stock picking, and the higher degrees of risk that I earned came the greater degrees of emotional mastery. There's not knowing yourself more than learning how to invest your money in the stock market or trading. It really teaches you a lot about yourself. How did you
get into that? Right? How did you start the trading journey? Because that's really your career as such, isn't it? YouTube's been your new thing.
Yeah.
But the trading, talk to us a little bit about how you became a trader.
When I went into the workforce, I wanted to be a fireman. Couldn't get into the fire brigade till I was 18, and so they said, well, get a trade, and you can, on your days off of the fire brigade, you can do that, right? So I went to college. My stepdad was an electrician. He got me a job. I went into that. Kept getting rejected from the fire brigade, even though I was beating everyone on the fitness tests or whatever, but they kept failing me at the interview. And by the time they did, I was earning more money as an electrician that it just didn't make sense. But I didn't want to be an electrician, so I thought, I'm going to not stay doing this. I'm going to work my way up and build my own business or whatever, or become financially free. I always had this idea I was going to become financially independent. I was bullied in my last year of school, and I used to go to the library, and I became fascinated with Microsoft Excel, and I used to build charts and patterns and do all these projections and things. After school, Microsoft Money comes out, and I become a little bit of a geek on that. And then I meet my wife, and I keep telling her I'm going to become financially independent, we're going to be all right, and then we find out we're going to have a baby. So that was a rocket up my arse, basically. We found out I was going to have him, and I was already saving money, putting some into some passive investments, but then it was just how can I narrow this time down? I had this 20-year plan to replace my income with investments. And it was how can I get that down? So then I just started going, okay, well, if I increase my savings, if I go to highest, maybe just from large cap stocks to medium cap stocks, higher returns. And maybe if I go into real estate investment trusts and ETFs, maybe if I start my own business and grow my income and then the whole thing starts to compound, then I basically got it down that I could do it in about 5 to 8 years instead of 20. So I start doing that. My son comes along and I'm like, business is going. And then I'm like, I've got to speed this up because the business is way too stressful for me. So I was looking at online poker, I was looking at options trading, and then after blowing about 40 or 50 grand in the financial markets, I actually learned a lot of lessons and became
So you actually
good.
spent 40 to 50 grand of your own money.
Just learning and blowing it in the market.
How bad was that? Did you just get like
it's bad. It's the closest I've ever come to divorce.
Really?
Yeah, it was like.
Did you have to explain to your missus you lost 50 grand?
Yeah, no one believed. Everyone thought I was mental. Her extended family, they're all questioning me.
This is interesting, right? So everyone thought, you're like, I'm going to become financially free. You took all your money, you invested in the stock market, and you got absolutely smashed to pieces. You lost all the money, and then you've got to go back and tell your wife. Is that what happened?
Kind of. I wasn't as radical as that, but it was like I had a pot of money. I was building it sensibly, right?
Yeah.
So there was a portion of cash that I was trying my hand at. But bear in mind, by this time, this is like mid to late 20s. And by that time, I'd been to my wife and said, right, I'm going to take this risk. And she'd be like, oh, are you sure? And then the next year I'd be like, I'm going to take this risk. And she'd be like, all right. And then by the next time, she don't even question it because I'm a great risk taker. I calculate risks so that I know that it's going to pay off over time, right? So you prove yourself, but then you get to a point where it's like, I really can't crack this thing. I've blown 40 grand. I'm kind of a bit closer. But
how did you feel at that point?
It was tough. It was, as I say, it's a self-learning experience because I wasn't really get rich quick at that point. I wasn't excited by that, but it was more my ego. It was like, how can I not do this? How dare you?
Is that what you were saying to yourself?
It was like, yeah. And then I was thinking, then I was comparing the money that I'd blown to like a Disney holiday, and then the guilt was creeping in. I was like, this could have been a Disney holiday for my family, or this could have been this memory for my family. Instead, I've spent this whole holiday looking at charts.
So you were at a crossroads at this point?
Yeah, I was at a crossroads. I was definitely at a crossroads, but I was around a couple of good people. When I felt ready professionally, and I funded my account for the first time as a professional, 4 weeks later I had less money in my account than I started with, again, right? But I'd done everything right, and it was being around those people that said to me, just stick with it. Over time it's going to produce a profit. You've got all the proof there. And on the 5th week, that's when I first went into profit, and that was like the first time that I trusted what I was doing. And then another 6 months later went by, and I earned, we went up in profit. And then after 12 months, we'd done a whole year of consistent profits. There was about 2 months of drawdown. And at that point, I was so confident that I was like, that's it, don't need to work. I'd replaced my income fully.
And that's when you went full-time in it?
Full-time.
What's the difference between, Jason that takes £50,000 and loses it in the stock market to Jason that does 12 months worth of profitable trading? And I think that's the question, right? Because people that are listening or watching, some of them have probably looked at trading before. Some of them have probably done trading before. I mean, look, I've had many very successful businesses and many successful property investments and things like that. And I've done some trading over the years, but very limited success. So when you tell those stories, the only sort of success that I've had with trading is in two places, right? It's not really trading, but I invested in stocks, over a long period of time.
Yeah.
So things like Disney and Apple and all that kind of stuff, like years and years ago, and watched those go up to a degree. And in crypto, where I've just bought it, forgot it's there, and just come back and been very happy, right? So that kind of stuff. But any time that I try to do any trading, and so many people have probably experienced this, is they haven't, you often lose more than you succeed, right?
Absolutely.
So what's the difference between you not winning and winning? What does that look like? And how can someone that's listening or watching understand what are the mechanics? How do you become a successful trader?
I think you've just hit the nail on the head. I mean, most people shouldn't trade. Right? So first of all, if there's someone out there telling you shouldn't trade more than telling you should, they're probably more of a trustworthy person. But most people shouldn't do it, 100%. Second of all, what you're explaining is dabbling.
Yeah,
and if you dabble,
I love it.
You just can't do it. It was my life. My wife sent me so many emails of photos of me asleep with 2 laptops on my, where another night where she just went to bed. I'm asleep with testing data, and I think the difference between someone who's successful and someone who dabbles is the continuous learning that goes on during the losses. Someone who dabbles takes a loss, it's like, oh, I'll try this then, and it's flipped from system to system, strategy to strategy, and you end up really not know. I always reference it to like the thermostat analogy. Some people, they go, oh, turn the heating off, turn the heating on. And it's like the thermostat's there so you can tweak it and actually get a comfort. And when you do too much at once, you don't know what worked and what didn't work. So you have to, it's a long process of learning what didn't work and filtering out that. And then eventually a byproduct of doing that is you become profitable. With trading, it's
basically exactly the same as business.
Exactly the same.
So this is the interesting thing, is because if you just dabble in business, you also don't succeed. So what we're really talking about is the traits of success, right?
Yeah.
You're going all in. You've got that all in mentality. You stop dabbling. You get focused. When you lose, you learn.
Yeah.
And when you win, you often don't learn, but you keep winning, right? And you find the formula to repeat the process.
And
right?
it's applying the learnings. That's the tenacity to succeed. That's got to stay there in the background. But it's not finding the winning thing. As you know, in business, there's Gary Vee promoting one thing, Grant Cardone promoting a total opposite thing. They're both really successful people, right? So it's not really the thing that works. It's ironing out and filtering out the things that don't work. Yeah. And the quicker you can learn what don't work, you're going to make money.
You're building a model and always improving that model, right?
Yeah. But you're improving it by not doing more of what don't work.
Yeah.
It's not like making something better necessarily. And I think you make something better by filtering out the things that don't work. That's what works in trading and investing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how far can a trader go? So let's imagine that you went all in like you did. What changes did that create for you in your life? What did you start to see and create that you didn't have before? So we talk about like the ascension then, right? So you had all the tough times, you lost money, but you've gone all in and you've focused on it. Where does that take you over the next few years?
So the mental, emotional mastery that comes with that level of speculation. So you said I'm a calm person. Something I've practiced a lot is seeing the good in the bad and the bad in the good. So I can't accept a loss as a loss, and I can't accept a win as a win. I really just have to see it as a process. So I've had a time, I had my biggest trading day on the 3rd of April 2020. We did $168,000 in 18 hours. And even then, I felt a little bit, emotionally cocky. I got a bit cocky and I stopped day trading. I haven't day traded since that day. Just as the same way, as if I lose money, I can't really see it as a loss because that keeps you out of taking the next trade, which will put you into a winner, right? So I've practiced seeing the good in the bad and the bad in the good and the lessons in the thing, right? So I've applied that across all areas of my life, and I try and see in any situation what the lessons are, what the good is from it. And the same with, if something really good, I try and pick out the downsides to it because I don't want to have this fantasy or infatuation with something that could let me down, right? And I don't want to be let down, and I don't want to be disappointed, and I don't want to be, away with the fairies ever. So just practicing that and understanding that is what's made me calm. And then I was in this position at 29 years old where I didn't go out. I didn't have to work. I didn't have to do anything. I'm sitting at home, like putting on a lot of weight, just going to the fridge all the time. All my mates at work, wife's out, trying to get out because we're just together too much. Kids at school. And then I thought, well, I don't need money, but I'm definitely missing some kind of like fulfillment. So it was just like, I want to start sharing like some of this stuff. There was a lot of crap out there at the time. Even worse now. Back then, there was a few gurus, scammers, just promoting bull crap. Bearing in mind, I've been through 3 years of like trial and error. I knew what didn't work and what worked, right? So I just thought, you know what? I'm going to sit here in my pants, open up a trading thing, and just let people watch me trade, live. I'll trade my live account. It's free. They can just come and watch, and we'll just form this little community every morning, and we'll talk about trading.
And there is a fascination with trading, right, isn't there? There's a huge fascination that people have because perhaps there is a get-rich-quick mentality towards it, isn't there, right? And
Definitely.
people think, okay, so put some money in and just multiply the money and da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
People get excited. Like, how real or not real is that? Why are so many people... So in your mind, because you've got quite a unique take on it, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I've doubled my account twice in my career, and the quickest I've done it was 18 months. So, if someone comes to you, $5,000, says, can I live off of this, or can you double it? Well, yeah, in 18 months, I'll give you another $5,000. What difference is that going to make to you, really, based on your living costs? And that's the reality. There's people out there that are trying to promote that you can double your account in a week. You can if you're lucky, and that's all it is. Luck isn't repeatable, unfortunately. And if you do find a way of doing that, I'll transfer my net worth to you. but that's not realistic. So,
what is realistic? So let's imagine that you had someone that went all in, they've got an all in mentality, they're going to give it their all, they're going to focus on it, learn, get committed to it. What can somebody do with their money, for example, in trading?
Long-term trading strategy, let's just say that you was able to, do 4% a month, right? Yeah. If you compound that out, that would be about 60% a year. Recompounding. Let's just say you managed to get a 50 grand together, and you had the confidence that you could do 4% a month, compounding out 60% a year. If you did that every year with a 50 grand account, after about 6.5 years, you'd have $1 million account. And at that point, you'd be pumping out 40 grand a month from your trading profits. It's only 6.5 years. To me, that's not a long time to do something that's going to give you that level of income. But the important thing is, and it's kind of the elephant in the room, is learning to trade worth it? Because you can go and learn that in business. And the business could be something you're much more passionate about and enjoy.
You know what? Right? I think that's definitely a thing for me, is that, of course, me, like you, on a journey where, very similar actually, grew up in similar circumstances where, I wanted more, I wanted to be more, I wanted to become more, which naturally you then go and look at trading. And I looked at trading, and I remember being at a Tony Robbins event when I was young and watching, I think his name was Chuck Mellon. You ever heard of him?
I have heard of Chuck.
And he sold a CD. It was a trading CD, and it was crazy. He's like, I was really young, but I remember buying this CD thinking, I'm going to crack this. And do you know what? I found it so boring. Right. That I was just like, my energy is definitely not a trading energy. Do you know what I mean?
That is it. And most people that I've found that are good at it are engineers, military, tech background. Right. They're the guys because they're process oriented.
So more of a logical mind, right? Left brain.
They're the kids that were playing with Excel in the lunchtime.
There's not many of them, is there?
There's not, mate. There's not. But this is the thing with trading. It's the enjoyment of solving a puzzle. That's all it is. And if you've got, that's
really
the Rubik's
interesting
Cube.
way. Yeah. So for the right people, it's amazing, and then for the wrong people, they should stay away from it. Almost is what we're talking about here.
And that's most people, because they've got an unrealistic expectation of what it is. It's not glamorous at all. It's not glamorous at all. It's been glamorized by Instagram.
Oh, it's definitely been glamoured up. Yeah.
Whenever you see someone,
so this is so weird, right? So because where we want to go next is like you've gone and you've built a YouTube following, 500,000 people, and you've got, I think at the mastermind when I first met you, first one you come to, it's really cool. You came and did a talk, right? And we're all doing talks and sharing, so we do at the mastermind. It's all a group of peers, and I listened to you do your talk, and you did a great talk, and you talked about this video that you created. You put it on YouTube, and you get millions of people watch this particular video. And your mindset for this video, which we'll get into more in a moment, was, hey, I'm just going to give everything I know in one video. People can go and watch it. And you went and you crushed it, right? So that did really well. But you spent half your time telling people not to do something, and because of that, you've amassed 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, hundreds of thousands of people listening to you on Instagram, and you're not like overly, you don't go crazy with this stuff. You're very calm about it. Yeah. Which I think is really cool for people that listen or watching. So how does that happen?
Yeah.
So let's break that down and let's get into that. Where's that come from?
So 29, sat there, going to the fridge, doing some free stuff for people, right? I wanted to get a bit more fulfillment. I wanted to start helping people. So I thought, well, I don't need money. So, and the question that I asked at that mastermind was, what would your business look like if you didn't need money, right? Because it's a different thing. It's a different entity. And that's the position I was in. So I thought, well, if everything I share comes from an actual place of me wanting someone to succeed, I'm not expecting anything in return. I won't put up with certain clients. I won't build certain rushed products. It will just be amazing stuff that I truly believe will get the result for someone. And I started doing that, and I started sharing all my knowledge. I did a newsletter, I did a podcast, I read the newsletter out as a podcast, and we started doing YouTube videos. And it's basically just sharing everything I knew, everything transparently, right? And and the second benefit that I had with YouTube is I'm an analyst. So I was looking at the analytics at the back end of YouTube, learning what doesn't work, basically. It took me 8 years to get to 50,000 subs, and then 1 year to go to almost 500,000. So it was all of the compounding effect of learning what doesn't work, and then going, let's just do this, and it worked. And when I sat down and created that video, it was a real energy of, how can I create something where they will have zero questions and not need me at all? So I sat down and spent a week creating this 2.5 hour video covering off everything.
Did you ever at any point say to yourself, am I off my head? Am I crazy?
I think the energy that comes across in that video is that I didn't really care. It's like, I don't, probably now.
That's what I'm trying, which is good, which is cool, and it's unique, which is why, I'm really pleased to be talking to you about it. But I always, when I am looking at things like this, I always think of, the person that's listening and watching, that's a business owner, that probably their perspective might be different, actually, because like you said, they need money, right?
They need money.
They need leads. They need clients. They need sales. Going and giving everything they know for free on YouTube, might sound insane to them, right?
Yeah.
And I actually, when I first heard you talk at that mastermind, it definitely gave some rejigging to my mentality.
Right.
We started to put a lot more value into, the YouTube channel, and started to, focus on value led.
Yeah.
Which definitely, I think as you giving that rejig to me was like, actually, well, why don't you just give more and try and help people more, because then they're going to want more, right?
You give a lot anyway there.
Yeah. But when you look at the end, someone else that's looking to build a business, it's hard for them to think. So how could someone rejig their minds and sell them on rejigging their mind?
So what I learned is, through studying all the analytics, one, YouTube works for you. So YouTube is this tool of team of people that work for you. They just want you to be someone that they can direct to as and have confidence that they've clicked on the right thing. Two, it's just a game of getting people to spend a lot of time with you. The more time people spend with you, the more likely they are to want to get closer to you. You mentioned Tony Robbins. A lot of people just know Tony Robbins for like UPW, where you walk on, it's a 3-day weekend or whatever. What they don't know is there's a deep funnel of Tony Robbins where people are literally spending 70 grand to go to Africa with him to feed a family, right? And just to get closer to him. And the reason they're at that level of the funnel is because they've spent so much time and got so much value along that kind of ladder of products that he's got hidden underneath the surface. So we found this out, and we're in an age now where you can get any information you want. You can learn how to start a business on ChatGPT.
Yeah,
it'll give you a whole map. It will tell you what to do, how to build it, right? It will tell you how to trade. It will tell you how to lose weight, whatever you want to do. It's not really about information, it's about implementation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you know that, you realise that I've just got to get people to trust me. So if I can genuinely give everything away for free and not expect anything in return, that in itself is the best conversion tool that you're ever going to have. We've never placed an advert. We've never, ever spent money on ads or marketing. So at that point. So, we're putting out all the value, and then at the end, we say, you don't need me anymore. If we've missed anything, let me know. And you're inundated.
And it's that crazy reverse psychology of people that as soon as you tell them they can't have it, they want it.
It is. It is. It's like they just want to trust. I mean, I've done it myself. I've been on YouTube. I've watched a long video, watched the next video. I'm like, I want to work with this guy, and I'll find these details. I contact him. I go, right, you've got to teach me about this stuff. I just want to work with you. What you're not going to do is go and search again for another and watch another 2 hours. You've just spent 2.5 hours with me. There's no one else that can help you at this point. So you either need your handheld, or you go and do it on yourself and just go up to chance. And it's just that in itself. You've just got to trust that, basically.
So how would you take an ordinary business owner? Let's take a coach of any type. It could be any type of coach, right? In your instance, it's trading. You know, in my instance, it's building businesses, helping people. There's relationship coaches, and you know, we know loads of coaches in different areas. They would be terrified of going and giving everything that they know for free. So how would you sell them on that concept? What would you say to them the outcome would be if they were to do that?
First thing I'd really to get them to understand is the information's available everywhere, which I just said.
Yeah.
You know, they can go and find the information. Doesn't matter if you've got a, you know, if it's coming from you or whatever, they'll find out what they need to do. So it's not about what they need to do. It's about your unique ability to help them. So one powerful thing is something I think you help your clients do is build their own methodologies around their own IP, basically, around their way of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You then become non-comparable to anyone else for a start. If I was a barber and I did this YouTube video and I said, you know, this is our guaranteed neck itch free service where you can go straight into a meeting and you don't get the itch in your t-shirt, and you know, you get this lovely kind of anti-neck collar, you get this nice fragrance that goes on, and you know, you get driven to the shop and driven to your flight and all these kind of unique things that you can build into it, and you give that framework a name. All of a sudden now no one can compare that framework to anything else. So then you spend 2.5 hours delivering value. They haven't really got anywhere else to go. It's like, well, not only do I trust you because I can see how all this makes logical sense, but I can't buy that anywhere else, you know, and that doesn't exist anywhere else. So therefore, I can't negotiate on price. Whatever you're charging, I'll pay for, you know, because there's nothing to compare it to. There's no going rate at that point. Yeah. And second of all, I only want to work with you because I've spent so long with you. So here, take my money. And that tends, from what I've seen from other entrepreneurs, those are the people that do the best. People with their own unique methodology, great offers, you know, offers that are stacked, that can't be compared, and charge 2-3 times the going rate because they're going to be profitable and be able to reinvest in their business, build the business, serve more people, and get better results for people.
Talking about the ramp methodology, it's another thing that we, you know, that for sure that we agree on. You talk about lowering the barrier to entry in order to get people into your world. Do you want to give your insights on that for someone that might be listening, wants to market their business, get more customers, bring more people in? Talk a little bit about that philosophy, because I think it's really interesting. And
so it goes back to the whole car wash thing, right? The delegation thing. I want income with minimal team, most delegation, minimal hassle, you know, and as most leverage as possible. I like to have an empty calendar and a full bank. that's basically
empty calendar, full bank. Right. This is the funny thing is, isn't it? Because actually, like, you know, in our mastermind, there's interestingly enough, there's a few characters like you, and there's a few characters like me, isn't there?
Yeah.
And it's almost like chalk and cheese, because I love working, and I love
balance though.
Yeah, it's different, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, but it's interesting. So I don't mind a full calendar, but you like an empty calendar.
Yeah, I don't leave my house, but but so how can you put that? How can you apply that into a business? I think I've witnessed a lot of people selling higher ticket things, and I saw the effort that went into that. First, you need salespeople. Two, you need like openers, closers. You need a lot of attention on the client to get them over this big wall. Yeah. Once you got them over there, they might not buy another thing because they've just spent. You know, maybe you haven't got anything else to offer them. It's harder to build a next step for them. Yeah. Because you've given everything. So I thought, well, I want the higher ticket, but how can I just do it without me having to sell it? Yeah.
High ticket, low effort.
Obvious. Right? Like, surely this is what a lot of business owners want. But it was like, I always remember the game Lemmings. These lemmings drop on the map, and they're like traffic, they're leads. And you've basically got to map out, pave the way for them to the goal, so that because they're just like banging into things, right? And they just walk up the thing once you've cracked it. And I thought, how can I apply that? Like, how can they sell themselves up the ramp? How can they just like, I don't have to talk to them, you know? So I thought, well, I'll just break the ideal price that I want per customer down over this ramp and split that into multiple products. So free to a cheap product that's going to get me more value, and then to another one, until the point where, you know, we maybe had 4 products, but then I'd bridge the gap between 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And, you know, I'd basically say, Well, how can we basically reduce the lower the barrier to entry, and then reduce all the prices down, so that they don't even feel like they're spending as much money as they do eventually. And by the time they do, it's because they really want to spend that money, because they've got so much value along that journey, and they can jump off whenever they like, whenever they've got enough. and that's how we mapped it out. And we dropped a YouTube video in the front end, and it was just the lemmings. It was like, walking up the thing. It was crazy to witness, really crazy.
Which is a great philosophy, and one that anyone that is any type of business owner can really start to adopt to their business. Talk to us a little bit about your book that and the philosophy behind that. You've been writing it for a long time, right?
I've been writing it for a while, because it's really, the more I've come onto podcasts and I've done talks, and the more people I meet, and the more peers that I meet, the people I aspire, I look up to and respect, and the more conversations I have with those, I've got a lot of feedback about being a calm person, someone who feels like they've got it together. And I've looked at my life and thought, I was over in Dubai in 2023, and I was on a yacht with a few of these billionaire people, and they're all moaning. They were hustling, and my staff are letting me down, and they were chase. And I just, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, and everyone to their own, but I felt like I was really successful at that point, because I thought, when's enough? I felt like I had enough. And I went home from Dubai, and I thought, what is this feeling? And it was like, it's just being free in mind, movement, and money. Being who you want to be, doing whatever you want, wherever you want, with whoever you want, and then having the financial underpinning to not do anything if you wanted to. And that was kind of the goal. That was this feeling, and that's what I call always free. And they're all measurable things, so you can all work towards each of those things.
So the three are financial, money?
Yeah, mental freedom, mobility freedom, particularly in your vocation and how you make money, and not being tied to a geographical location, and then financial freedom. And I think people, when they think of freedom, they just think of the financial element.
Definitely, yeah.
But if you're not mentally free, you'll always be told how to spend your money.
If I ask a room of people what they want, the answer universally is financial freedom.
Right.
Because I feel that it's probably the domino that they feel, if I knock that domino down and I get that financial freedom, well, if I want to go to the gym, or and I want to work from Dubai or the Maldives or whatever, I can do that. So they see probably the financial freedom as being the key that unlocks everything else, but they probably don't realise that you have to build towards. And I guess that's maybe, when we look at your journey, you got into a stage where you were financially free, but maybe weren't free in your mind. And like you said, you're going to the fridge every 5 minutes, struggling, right? Is that where this comes from, right?
Yeah, totally that. It's a balance between those three things that will give you a sense of fulfillment, reward, and passion for life. Think about when you were 7 years old. You was probably out playing football.
Yeah, love it.
It was not a care in the world. The ice cream van would ring. You'd run out, and you'd be told to come in. You had all the freedom in the world, but when your mum called you in, you'd think, when I'm an adult, no one's going to tell me what to do. I'll be freer than ever. I'll be free when I'm an adult. And then you watch adults, and the freedom's just stripped away. They get less and less free. They become further and further from who they were at 7. I think always free is being in a state of a 7-year-old kid and enjoy life. That's it. And in perpetuity, constant state of being 7 years old. I mean, that's freedom to me. Right. When I went to Disney, there was an old guy who was about 75. We went to put our ticket in the thing, and he said, he clamped the ticket and he went, "Go and be a kid again." And I thought, wow, that's what everyone wants to be. They just want to be a kid again. So always free to me is a state of that childish, how we were born, just like a state of pure freedom.
And how do you outline how others achieve that?
Mental freedom. So working on how much baggage you've got, what beliefs have you got? What are you dragging through life that's holding you back? What societal idealisms are you looking up to? What societal pressures or family pressures are you holding on to? Who are you looking up to? Making sure that you're being truly who you really are and who you want to be. And again, if you want to figure that out, look at your camera roll on your phone, and there'll be a theme of things that you choose to take photos of, right? And stuff that you spend your disposable income on.
That's actually a really good concept.
Yeah, right.
But if you were to look at your camera roll, you can probably see
things
your
you choose to
priorities,
take
right?
first.
Yeah,
Exactly.
things that you almost value.
Exactly
right?
that.
Yeah.
If I was to ask your friend what you bring up in conversation or what they would ring you for advice on, what would that be? And just simple questions like that, you can start to see a pattern of who you really are. And then you have to be that person. You have to be congruent in that person. Your actions have to align with your thoughts and your beliefs around that. If you do have any of that baggage or you have any challenges around that, there's work that you can do on that, but that's ultimately what you're going for. Mobility freedom is, what are you doing? You know who you are. Does your work align with what you want to do? Because that's the next thing. I know people just trying to build businesses that just aren't part of who they are. Exactly. And it's an effort. It's more effort than it needs to be, right? It's banging your head against the wall and then making that mobile. So making it mobile and passive. So you want to delegate all the crap that you don't like doing, which you're great at that. You've built teams. You're amazing at building teams and delegation. You have to become a master of delegation and making it mobile. The more places you can do it from in the world, the better. And then finally, it's financial freedom. So you use the income that you generate from that vocation to ideally cover your lifestyle costs should you wish to stop. It's a scale. Like, it's not like you've achieved it or haven't achieved it. You can work on all those things and become more and more free.
Okay, so where can everyone find it?
Amazon. And we're going to try and get to international bestseller. So if anyone wants
any
to
help
grab
with
it,
that, go and get a
appreciated.
copy of Jason's book, always free, on Amazon. And let me tell you, if it's got these types of concepts in, right?
Yeah.
The Lemons concept, the concept of adding value to other people, and getting your message out there, which is incredible value, and I think people will get a ton from that. Well, look, Jason, it's been amazing to have you on. I've really enjoyed
Thank you,
it.
mate.
I think it can add a tremendous amount of value to our audience and a lot of the business owners out there that can take different approaches, right? It doesn't have to be go, go, go. Building that balance, building a balanced business can be really, really powerful. If people want to get in touch with us, you should get the book first, but where else can people contact you, Jason?
Yeah, just jasongraystone.com or Jason Graystone, on the social medias. Just make sure you don't click on a fake.
Go jasongraystone.com. That'll be the one. Well, look, thanks again, mate, and it's great to see you, and I can't wait to to read the book.
Thank
and
you,
support you with that as well. It's going to be incredible.
Thanks, man.
Thanks again, man.
Cheers, Adam.